Good morning, Huntington's disease. Todd here. Hey, I'm wearing my glasses today. I've got to do a little bit of reading, and I'm trying to do it the best I can. I've got to read my chicken scratch as well. So, you've heard of the 5 stages of grief. Well, I'm going to paraphrase that a little bit. This is the 5 stages of finding out you have Huntington's disease. I've been through it, and so I kind of understand it a little bit. It may be somewhat different for everyone, but this is how I experienced it. Because just finding out you have Huntington's disease brings on a whole new dilemma in your life. I'll tell you that for sure. So there are stages of things that you go through. So the stages of grief, if we can recap those, are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. That's the 5 stages that you typically go through when you're in a grieving process. And finding out you have Huntington's is kind of like a grieving process, I would say. But I'm going to just take those words and say a few other adjectives, I think they call them, descriptive words about those. So for me, for the first one, they said denial. Well, I was never really in denial, but what I was anxious. I had anxiety, and I even had a panic attack. That was something that I wasn't really aware of. But that anxiety and panic, the panic went away kind of, but the anxiety lasted for a long time. Now, also keep in mind that with Huntington's, your brain changes on top of the fact that you go through these stages. Now, I'm not talking about how long these stages last, because maybe for me it lasted longer than it would for somebody else. So instead of saying that you have to go through denial, I don't think any of us have to deny or are denying that we have Huntington's disease. I think we have to figure out the anxiety part of it, because it's a very anxious thing. And like I said, they're talking more and more about the fact that the cognitive part of this starts way sooner than they thought. Okay, then the next part of it is called anger. So I'm going to go through these 5 things so you can kind of know how long the video will be, right? So the second thing is anger. For me, instead of dealing with anger, I think I regressed to my past a little bit. Some people talk about their loved ones starting to drink, or they talk about them starting to, act out some old habits. Well, what that is I think our brain regresses to a time in our life when it was, for me, I regressed back. And I'll admit, I did drink a little bit during the beginning process of finding this out. I drank when I was younger, and that was just a habit I had, and I think I regressed to that habit. Your loved ones probably or might do the same thing. Maybe you would do the same thing. Don't, if you can, avoid it. Maybe get some counseling instead. But I regressed in that second phase. They call it anger, but I'm going to call it regress to my past. And, I returned, I don't know, I wanted to live the part of my life, I don't know, that I thought was fun. I wanted to kind of relive the part of my life that I thought brought me joy. Come to find out that you can't put Band-Aids on this thing, and you can't cover it up with any kind of salves or, treatments other than, dealing with it. But again, we're also dealing with the fact that our mind is changing. So we're going through the 5 stages of grief. All along, our brain is changing, and our chemistry is making us do different things too. So again, your loved one may act out different than you would think. So the Huntington's brings on the whole transition from one stage of life to another, because we're going from where we were, from what kind of person we were to where we're going to be. And then the next thing is called bargaining. What I did, and I think I've heard some other people say, is I tried to work to overcome. So my bargaining part of it was I tried to outwork the disease. I tried to get involved with other things. I tried to, I was even involved with my grandson. I was trying to do projects for him. I was trying to stay on the right working path for as long as I could. Again, so that's what I would call as a bargaining stage. I tried to work hard. So now maybe you can recognize some of these signs in your spouse or your loved one or your family member. Maybe you can not go through these in yourself. I'm not saying that working through the bargaining part of it was good or bad. I'm just saying that that's how I dealt with it. And I think I've heard some other people say, they found out they had it and they worked, diligently or as long as they could. I have a younger sister who I think is she's working through the bargaining stage of it now. Now, none of this happened overnight. I mean, I'm 10 years into this now, and I would say that I might have gotten to stage 5 finally, but also my brain changed too. So then bargaining, that's working. I work to overcome it. So then there's depression. I don't want to say that what I went through was depression. I went through, I don't know, a little bit of regret of the fact that I'm going to lose my life and I'm going to have to leave my family and I'm going to have to give up the things that, you know, I've always wanted to provide for my family. So that's been my biggest depression, if you will. I'm not going to call it depression because I'm not depressed about it, but I'm sad and I'm hurt because I have to not be able to provide for my family. My family, me leaving Earth is going to be way worse for them than me. I'm not overly concerned. There are people that are probably concerned about dying. It's not high on my list because my mind has changed too. So maybe I don't have the same anxiety, but also, I'm going to heaven. I'm going to see my loved ones that are gone on before me and all that. I know that. So that's how I accept that. But yeah, the depression part of it, I would say, is I'm more concerned that, I'm going to be leaving my family, which that's really the part that I don't want to do. And we can make all the plans and do all those things so that they're left with good accountability, but that don't make it better on them. Us Huntington's patients are leaving. The people that are left behind have to deal with it. And then finally, acceptance. Okay, so finally you accept the fact that you have Huntington's. That's not necessarily true either, because you don't really ever accept what here's what with me, okay? I can only say it for me, so I will let everyone else try to, but this might give you some hints how you can deal with some of these stages. The final stage is acceptance, but my brain has just changed. 10 years ago, I would have never had this conversation. 10 years ago, I would have probably been covering it up, hiding from it, doing everything I could. But it is a griefful thing, and you have to go through the stages. Maybe this will help someone that's about to make a decision to get a test. Maybe this will help someone that you're facing. That's a very tough decision. But also, maybe it'll help you deal with the 5 stages of finding out you have Huntington's disease. All right, it's Huntington's disease. Todd, go to the page and subscribe and get notifications because, again, I'm going to keep posting these videos, like I say, and maybe they'll be helpful in some of the things that I can share.